This is Wellness Buds, and I'm your host, Stella Wingfield.
And I'm Laura.
This episode is inspired by the following quote. I never lose. I either win or learn. Nelson Mandela. I love this quote. I think it's such an important concept to grasp in general, but also applying it to stress and stressful situations. Sometimes we let fear of failure or self-limiting beliefs hold us back, but as we ended with last time, the power of perception and the power of the mind, if we learn to see failures as opportunities to learn and grow, the resistance to change and the fear of the unknown disappears, and stress goes away too, or at least gets minimized. If you fear failure, you're under this low and slow pressure cooking within you kind of stress. Having that low-key stress can definitely deplete your energy, and like we talked about last time too, this also negatively impacts your health. I cannot lie that starting this podcast was super scary, and I occasionally still have my doubts that creep into my mind, and just low, really low level stress. Thinking to myself, what if this entirely fails? What if I never get any listeners? What if all of this is just kind of a waste of time? But at the end of the day, I also know and remind myself that when I find myself falling into that thought pattern, I then think okay, if I don't succeed, at least I can learn from this and move on. At the very least, I also know that I'm doing this to benefit others and bring forth knowledge that I think everyone can benefit from, either learning or being reminded of some of these things. I know that I'm on my path, and no matter what happens, I will definitely learn something. I've already learned how to use Audacity, so that's a cool skill that I can use moving forward. I've learned a lot about podcasting and just a bunch of random stuff, and I learn stuff every week by researching episodes and building upon my baseline knowledge. And what does stressing out about failure really accomplish? Literally nothing. And if you fail, that's the worst thing that can happen. That is the worst. You fail. Okay, whatever.
Exactly. I mean, I was just talking with my boss about that, having younger staff. We have a lot of teenagers or very early 20s and people on their first jobs or their first full-time jobs especially. And the fear of failure keeps people from being able to even progress because they never want to go be the go-getter or go above and beyond. And so you don't end up standing out, but they won't do it because they're scared they'll do it wrong. And it's rather than being scared of the failure, if you try and do it, you're going to stand out that you even put in the effort, failure or not.
Yeah, that you tried in the first place.
Yeah, and on top of that, my boss was I fail 5 times a week and I own 4 businesses. Failure is a part of making change.
Yeah, that good old saying of life doesn't begin until you're outside of your comfort zone. It's so true, though.
Exactly. I mean, even I was just talking to someone because Hydro Flask, their headquarters are in Bend. They're from Bend, Oregon. And those lids that they have, the basic ones with the top loop on, It took them 3 years to make that lid.
Wow.
3 years of engineering because there's so much in that lid. But you can't be afraid to fail. You just got to keep moving forward and changing the pattern until you find the successful one.
Yeah. 3 years. Sometimes it takes 3 years, y'all. That's okay.
On a water bottle lid.
But they're killing it. They're killing the game.
They are seriously killing it. Their products fly off the shelves here.
Yeah. I also, too, think about the failure thing, and I hear it all the time when I'm working out, go until failure. Go up in weights. Do the most that you can do, even if it's just 2 reps of it until failure, because it's but you pushed yourself to get to that level and your muscles are growing as a result. So it's all the same shit, whether it's in your workout, in life. Failure is okay. It'll happen and you can just learn from it. You can live your life in fear, or you can live your life knowing that one way or another things are going to work out, and you can just learn from your mistakes and experiences.
Hell yeah.
Before we go into some techniques and all of that, I wanted to share some facts that I found while researching this episode, just to put into perspective how much stress impacts the world. And yeah, let's go. Stress costs American employers around $3 billion per year, as per statistics on stress and health.
Girl, not $3 billion.
300.
300 billion.
Did I say 3 billion?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. 300 billion, y'all. Negative feelings about one's appearance caused a great deal of stress for 28% of survey respondents. And this one is just so sad to me.
But sometimes I'm like, why did I participate in that stress?
Why am I stressing out about the way that I look? Because everyone is just... It's just the way you look. You can't help it, really. Like, to some extent, you can.
It's like the least interesting thing about you.
Yes, it is. That statistic was gathered through a survey carried out by Harvard School of Public Health. And some more on that specific survey, 32% of people cited problems with family members as their source of stress, and 53% of those working reported dealing with work-related stress. But I'm like, but then the people about their physical appearance, it's just nuts. 83% of Americans are worried about the future of the nation. I feel like that's a pretty valid worry. I'm worried too. You're not alone if you're worried about the future of America. Nearly 25% of people report feeling extreme stress during the holidays, and partially why we're doing this in December, because it's around the holidays. And you're not alone if you feel that extreme stress. Around 14% of Americans smoke to cope with stress, which also only leads to like more stress on your body, which is just a bad cycle. 1 in 5 college students have thought about suicide. Which, you know, I've definitely known people. I mean, I think everyone knows someone who's lost a life because of suicide, and a lot of it being like in those college formative years of dealing with stress or dealing with like financial stress too while you're in school can be really overwhelming. I know part of these facts too, 80% of millennials are stressed about money.
The fear of failure.
Yeah. And also, like, I've known someone who committed suicide because they accrued so much debt, like on credit cards and stuff too. That is just so sad.
It really is.
Employee stress levels have increased by 20% in the last 30 years. And 35% of people surveyed said that their boss was the core source of stress in the office. So if you have a good boss like Laura, be thankful that they're not causing you stress.
Amen.
48% of people in the US reported having sleep issues caused by stress. I've definitely been there when you're like laying awake at night just thinking about all the things that you have to do versus like, oh shit, I could actually accomplish those things better if I just like slept better. Because then, you know, it just like continues that cycle of being stressed when it's like you're losing sleep over these things. And then if you're not getting adequate sleep, then you're not performing at your highest optimal level of getting shit done, and you're just tired and then more stressed.
The vicious cycle.
Yeah, you gotta break that cycle. There are tons of more facts about stress, and I'm linking that in our show notes if you want to read more about that. I'm not gonna overload everyone with all of the statistics, but I just thought some of those things are super relatable and wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Some quick cognitive techniques for navigating stress. First, I'll just remind us how important positive self-talk is, kind of like we just said about people stressing out about their appearance. That shouldn't be something that you're stressed about, and you should really just talk to yourself in a really positive light. As we discussed in episode 3, 10 things I love about me. Listen to that if you haven't already to get you in that mindset of how you talk to yourself not only matters, but also impacts everything, your self-worth, what you think you're capable of, those self-limiting beliefs, fear of failure, so on. Yeah, how you talk to yourself is just so vitally important. Talking to yourself negatively is habitual. If you notice yourself doing that, stop. Nobody should talk about you that way, especially yourself. Talking to yourself positively improves esteem and can eliminate the chronic nagging stress that impacts how you feel about yourself. So everyone knows people who put other people down. You should not be putting yourself down. And if you notice negative thoughts about you or negative thoughts in general entering your mind, really try to notice it and stop it. Cut it out. Just stop. Positive self-talk and stopping other negative thoughts is learned optimism. So you can learn how to do it. It's hard, but you can learn how to do it. Language is powerful. The mind is powerful. Just like you can learn bad habits, aka our conditioned responses, which, like I said, is largely learned. You can unlearn them and teach yourself more productive ways to conduct your mind. I think another thing that we briefly touched on last time is accepting what's happening rather than letting your emotions get out of control. Learn a thing or two from our girl Laura and go with the flow.
Whoop whoop.
I know sometimes I have trouble with going with the flow, but I'm really trying to get better with practice, and I really think I am getting better with practice. If you accept what's going on and accept that you cannot change what's happening outside of you, you'll just have a way better time coping. We have the conscious choice of how we respond to a potential stressor, whether we can be productive in our response or not. I think one thing I still have trouble with sometimes is with that whole go with the flow thing is that I have a plan of how my day will go, and if something interrupts that flow, then I just get a little moody. And it's not an ideal way of responding to an event happening, because then I get stressed and bummed and I let my emotions get the best of me instead of just moving forward and reconfiguring my day. It's like then I just get stuck and then I'm not being productive either. So then it's just kind of like in that cycle too. And yeah, just like recognizing it and trying to be better. It's hard, but I try.
It is hard, but I feel like also once you get used to going with the flow, dude, sometimes I go way so hard with the flow. I just had this happen this last weekend. Literally, we were all out having a good time. You know, we're all tipsy. We're dancing. I had a drink. And these people that had, like, met us there and were hanging out, like, literally took my drink from me that I just bought and, like, chugged it right in front of me. And I just walked away because I was like, if you need a drink that bad, you go have a drink. Like, I don't fucking care, man. It is not worth my time. I'm not arguing over a $5 vodka soda. Like, that's not my energy tonight. And my friend next to me was like, but that situation was, like, kind of fucked up. And I was like, it's still not worth my energy. Let them be fucked up. I'm not. Yeah. If you go with the flow and do not feed into it, I had a great rest of the evening, and I kind of forgot that happened until I read this, and I was like, sometimes I violently go with the flow. On Halloween, a woman, like, took my witch's hat and was hanging out in the same bar as me with my witch's hat, and I was like, if she needs a witch's hat that bad, I guess she really needed it. I didn't need it that bad.
Wow. You are just so nice. Like, I don't know if, like, I get what you're saying, because that is so true.
A $2 witch hat worth an argument? No. Because it really isn't. And if they feel so desperate for it that they're jacking my shit, I'm like, you must have something bigger in life going on, and I really don't. So I hope it fixes whatever problem you needed that for.
I hope it gave you, like, some extra confidence. You needed that witch's hat.
Yeah.
And that person needed that drink.
And, like, positive self-talk. I'm already feeling good. Maybe she needed it to feel good. I'm already there. Hope we can be on the same level eventually, dog.
That's so funny.
It was so interesting.
I would love to think that I would be that way, but I just don't know if I would. I'd be like, what the hell? Well, especially with the drink.
I was like, my brain was like, that was bizarre, but I'm just not giving my energy to that. I was already dancing and, like, paying for songs on the jukebox and all of that. I was so far past one vodka soda. I didn't need that.
True.
But yeah, also with how you talk about yourself, like, I was surrounding myself with people that were chill and go with the flow and weren't going to do that to me. Like, those are people I met at the bar, and I had a bunch of actual friends there. I don't need that energy. Like, who am I going to surround myself with? A bitch acting like that, or someone who wants to dance to the song that I paid $7 to play next over everyone's song?
Yeah. Yeah, that's like, yeah, just the epitome of going with the flow.
Exactly. And positive self-talk.
We all just need to take a page from Laura. Truly.
You know.
Because it's like when you get attached, though, to how things were supposed to go, you're clutching emotionally to that situation or that concept or that idea, and then you get disappointed when your expectations are not met. But then, you know, shit happens. That shit definitely happened to you. And not everything can go as planned all the time. So it's like, You're right. It isn't worth the energy.
It isn't. Because then the rest of my night would have been like, did you see them take my drink? Did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it? Like, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah. Let me just point at this bitch over here. Everyone in the bar, look at that girl. She drank my drink. Like...
It was a very unique sitch.
Dwelling, though, on what didn't go right, that situation shows us it just doesn't accomplish much unless you're using it as an opportunity to learn. Learning that, yep, my night can still be great without having to think about these bitches who really need a drink.
Clearly.
Yeah. Other not so great ways of coping with whatever stimulus causes a reaction includes judging instead of coming from a more detached observation place. Like Laura said, that person needed that drink. So you're like so detached, you're like, whatever, it's $5. They obviously needed it more than I did. You're not even criticizing them or blaming them, and you're not even complaining, which is great because those are other things that just like really don't accomplish anything. When you bring judgments into things, complaining or wishing things were different than what they are, though it really feels good to vent and to a certain extent is healthy to vent, wishing things were different or complaining, again, changes absolutely nothing. The fact is, whatever happened, happened. Nothing we can do but move on, keep vibing, keep dancing, move on. Instead of wishing things were different, we should just try to notice what's happening and either seek to understand ourselves or whatever happened, or just emotionally embrace the way things are. And, you know, as we talked about in episodes 4 and 5, just practice gratitude. Be thankful for the opportunity to be alive and experiencing whatever the moment is, even if it isn't your favorite moment to be experiencing, which I know is way easier said than done to just appreciate life. But, you know, if Laura can do it, like, we can do that. Can just keep vibing and appreciating that you were out with your friends instead of, like, dwelling on the fact that some weird shit was going on.
Or just even appreciate, like, I can afford that $5 vodka soda for someone that needs it more. Like, yeah, congrats to me. I'm not stressed at it.
So good. Yeah. Everything in life is never going to be like exactly perfect. Even if we have perfect moments along the way, there's always going to be something going on that you could let go, get to you, or you could let it bother you. You could complain about it, but why? Just why? Our time is so valuable and so precious, so let's keep on moving and grooving. When thinking about stress and all the following questions that I'm about to address around stress, it might be nice to keep a journal, just throwing that out there. Sometimes when we write things down, I'm sure we've talked about it, like you gain clarity. It helps kind of like remove you from the situation. It helps ground us by slowing down our thinking. Instead of like reacting so crazy, it's like, okay, you take a second to think about it and you can respond versus just like reacting. So yeah, I think to help manage stress, you must first acknowledge or identify what is causing you that stress. It might be a work deadline, but is it actually the fact that you just like procrastinated until the last minute to make that deadline? Like, what is the actual cause? Because it might be more nuanced than you think. What is your belief system around the stressor or around yourself when certain things or thoughts come to your mind? We talked a little bit about how our expectations of ourselves or expectations from others are a common source of stress. So when you start to feel certain emotions that can elicit the stress response, take a beat and reflect. Are these rational or irrational beliefs surrounding whatever stressor that you might have? If you notice that any thoughts are irrational, have a little dialogue with yourself, solidifying why it's irrational, and repeat why it's irrational to yourself so you can remember moving forward why you shouldn't revert to that train of irrational thought. Try to think about how your belief system could use some adjustment if that applies to you. What are the consequences of the stressor? How does it impact your mental health, your physical health, or your behavior? And now that you're thinking about all these things, how could you change that outcome? Specifically, how could you conduct yourself and your thoughts around it to be as positive as possible? What could you do to alleviate these thoughts, emotions that arise? Or how could you behave in an effective way around those stressful times? Until you accept responsibility for the role that you play in creating or maintaining it, your stress level will just be beyond your control. Like we always say, you're in control of how you respond to things. You're also in control of the habits that surround how you deal with it and how you think about stress. You may have learned bad habits and how you deal with stress. And like I said, it's really hard to break those ineffective habits, but you are capable of responding in a more productive way. Do you create excuses for yourself of why you are stressed, such as, oh, I'm just always busy, or, oh, I'm just an anxious person. That's just me. I can't help it. I used to think this, and I used to use this excuse like it was my go-to excuse anytime I had anything going on, like, oh, I'm just an anxious person. I can't help it. Like, this is just how I react. How else do you want me to react? It's my anxiety. But anxiety is the psychological and physiological response to worry. And worry is the manifestation of fear, which preoccupies the mind on situations that have not happened and most likely will not happen either. Worry is a habit. And it's not the same as caring or planning, because I definitely thought that too, like, oh, I just worry because I care. I just worry because I'm a planner, which I am, but chronic worry is linked to more than a doubled risk of cognitive decline.
Oof.
So that's one of the most alarming facts for me, since I did spend so much time in my past worrying about some petty things, which at the time did not seem petty at all. It seemed like a real impending threat to my life and well-being, when in reality, the act of worrying chronically is actually a threat to my well-being. And worrying about all the things I used to worry about was just a waste of time. And I know it's probably an oversimplification of worry and anxiety, but coming from a person who was so anxious, and I mean, I can't say that I'm never anxious, because, you know, it still like creeps up on me sometimes, but I just have it way more under control than I ever have in my adult life. And like we talked about last time, I think my stress responses are pretty reasonable now, as in I'm not spiraling out of control for hours on end, days on end, or for much longer than what the situation like warrants, you know? But yeah, that doubled risk of cognitive decline fact, like, fuck, that's crazy. And I used to spend just like all my spare time worrying about everything.
Now that I have this time, I'm gonna go worry in the corner.
Yeah, I would just stay up late worrying about like everything, like going to the same job and just like worrying about, even though I knew exactly what to expect, I would still worry about like, what if this happens? What if that happens? Like, what if I'm on this assignment today? Which like, it was just so silly. And like with school stuff, or I would find anything and everything to worry about, trying to plan my day exactly how it's going to go. And it's like, you know, you can have a loose plan, but obviously things are not going to go as planned all the time. So
yeah, well, maybe that's even like the point, is stop worrying so much, because you, as Stella has proven, you can make anything worrisome if you put enough thought behind it.
Yeah, true.
So stop stressing.
Yeah, and I feel like too, even in like my social groups, I would have friends and be like so nervous about saying things, because I'm like, oh, I don't want anyone to take this wrong, and then I just wouldn't say anything. And then I'm like, I'm this weird, quiet friend who never fucking talks because I'm too worried about what people are going to think about what I'm saying. But then if I keep all my thoughts inside, that's really time consuming and worrying too, because I'm like, oh shit, I should have said that. And it's like, I can't even like fully express all the like cycles of things that would like run through my head. Like trying to explain anxiety is such a weird thing because people just don't really get it. I know so many people struggle with anxiety, and it's just...
everyone's anxiety is like such a different beast.
Yeah,
though.
It really is. So even though I've worked through it, I'm not saying it's easy to work through. I just think with the right tools and...
dedicated practice at defeating that beast.
Yeah, truly.
Like being intentional. Mm-hmm. I was just talking about this. Like, especially if you're in a really big part of life that's already changing... because especially in adulthood, that happens way more than we probably all want to admit, because change is hard and it just keeps coming at you.
It's inevitable.
And you have to keep adapting. But when you're in that big change, I think writing down intentions of where you want it to go, like writing things down in that journal, does make things more real. Because you have to think about it, you have to write it, and you have to read it.
Yeah.
and that much more interactions with your intentions at mind. Manifestation, dog.
Yeah, so true. Writing, journaling. I need to make more time for it too, honestly.
I never do it, so I'm preaching to something that I am horrible at doing. But I do know it helps.
Yeah. We should do a little challenge, a journal challenge or something sometime soon. Okay. And we can all go on the journey together of people who don't necessarily normally journal, and then, talking about how...
seeing what it does. What will I manifest with said journal?
Right. And, like, what will it accomplish for me, or what did I gain from it? Because sometimes, too, it's like, I think all of these things, and I used to journal a lot, and then when I would write out the thought, seeing it on paper, I'm like, ooh, that's not a good look. That's not a good look. So, it does really help give perspective. But, I'll say, too, if you are stressed, a really good first step is trying to focus on your breath. And it might be overstated. Everyone talks about breath work, pranayama, control of your breath, but for a good reason. Not only do we all have it readily at our disposal to control the breath, but it's also super effective in helping us get back to a more tranquil state of being. It ignites the relaxation response when you slow down your breath. And when you're slowing down your breath, you inevitably are also slowing down your heart rate, which means there's less work for your heart to do, less pumping. And the relaxation response also decreases your blood pressure. The relaxation response also reduces the need for oxygen, since you're getting that oxygen by slowing down and like getting to all of your muscles, and it just, it increases the blood flow to our major muscles. It lessens the muscle tension, as one might expect. Trying to prompt the relaxation response is key when managing stress responses. Relaxing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which, if you remember from our previous talks, this is a system within your body trying to return everything back to homeostasis, aka normalcy, versus all the things that happen when you are stressed, and that fight or flight mechanism kicks in. So, going back to the breath, deep meditative breathing can have a significant effect on your physical and mental state. 6 exhalations per minute is supposed to be like what you're looking for to be especially restorative, but that's just a side note. Breathing consciously helps relieve tension. Like we just said, it relieves anxiety and reduces pain. Deep breathing can reduce the frequency of hot flashes associated with menopause too. Everyone listening, if you haven't gone through menopause, which I'm assuming most of our audience has not, something to, keep in mind as we age. We're all eventually going to have to go through it. So deep breathing can reduce the frequency, which is very interesting to me. Using breathing techniques before and after stressful events to clear the mind, relax the body, and maintain the body's biochemical balance. Nearly every stress management technique specifically to reduce the sympathetic nervous activity includes some sort of breathing aspect.
It's crazy. All in your breath. It's just all in your breath. I've done some breathing exercises like in a group setting that are meditative, and they're definitely interesting. Because even, like, some people in them, they actually bring, like, their stress physically out. And I have only had very meditative feelings from it, like, very restful or at peace ones. But in that group, I had people that were, like, crying, or people that were really excited and laughing. Like, it's crazy what it can do.
Yeah, I think everyone has kind of a different response to it. And especially if it's a new thing for you trying out, it can be emotional. And it's, I've heard of that kind of stuff too. It's like, if you already have anxiety, then you can have anxiety around the breathing, like you're not doing it right or something like that. When it's like, we go into it in a little bit, but when you're going into it, it's kind of just like, don't have expectations of yourself and keep an open mind. Like, what it will look like for you, it won't look like for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And everyone's different. That's okay. As we've talked about, it's all good. But, before going into those like little techniques of like what to kind of like prepare your mind for, I'll just say that some benefits of relaxation practices include fewer symptoms of illness, fewer pains such as headaches. I've heard a lot about that, how breathing helps reduce headaches. So if you have a headache, that might be something to try. It also reduces muscle pain, less nausea and diarrhea, which I can attest to this one specifically. Whenever I used to be anxious, I used to call them nervous shits. I used to get them all the time.
People definitely get nervous shits. Mine are not diuretic, but I definitely get nervous shits.
Oh my gosh. I used to get them like every single week, like most days. Like, yeah, any time, like, okay, maybe not most days, but like definitely every week I would get like any kind of like, if there's any event coming up, like a social event, I would get them. Like I talked about, like even just going out to hang out with established friends, I would get nervous, and that would happen to me. Any new experience ever, even just going to a new store that I haven't been to, like haven't physically driven there, I'd be like, oh my gosh, but what about parking? Is there going to be parking? Is there a parking lot? What if I go into it the wrong way? Like, I would just like, I don't know why my mind would do it to me. It betrayed me. It's a bitch, but...
Do you think you're going to get a nervous shit the next time you go to Sephora after your trauma?
No, not Sephora.
Are you going to bring an extra outfit in case?
Oh yeah, after that Sephora trip. Oh my gosh, I think I blocked it from my memory almost. And I still haven't even cleaned those pants.
Girl, those pants are gone if you haven't cleaned them.
I have the like makeup remover. For everyone who doesn't know, we went to Sephora over the summer and I was in Charleston and I was pretty stoked on life because going from Oregon to South Carolina, it was like the Wild Wild West out there, even though it was the Wild Wild South. No one's wearing masks. I was like, oh fuck yeah, I can go to Sephora and like do my color match. Because in Oregon, I couldn't do it because of the masks. Like, how do you get, like, proper foundation without, like, being able to see it on your whole face? I don't really know. So I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, let's go into Sephora. We're not even in the store for 5 minutes, and the sales associate freaking dropped foundation. It shattered on the ground and then splattered all over these, like, new pants that I got.
And your new shoes.
And my new shoes.
It was everywhere. And we were on kind of a time crunch.
Yeah, I was just deep breathing during that, to be honest, because I was like, if I don't deep breathe right now, if I don't like focus on this breath work, I'm going to freak out because I really liked that. I really liked that outfit, first off, and the time crunch and just everything. And I'm like, now I'm waiting for forever. And this lady could not clean this mess up in a quick way to save her life. Also, there's a picture that I think you took.
I definitely did. I was like gonna get a nervous shit because I was like, I need this photo, but I also don't want to be an asshole.
But I'm so glad you have it. She's looking down while she's cleaning my pants, and on her shirt, girl, I don't know if you saw, but it was like, resilience is everything, or I forget what the fuck it says, but it's something about being resilient.
Yeah, I wonder if I can find it. It was just so funny. I just wonder, like, because you get so nervous going to stores, I'm like, you're gonna get nervous shit the next time you gotta go to
No, I've been to Sephora. It's been all good. Yeah.
You recovered.
Yeah, I recovered. But yeah, so anyway, ever since dealing, incorporating more relaxation practices into my life, I'm pretty much diarrhea free. Hey, cool. There's also fewer emotional responses such as anger, crying, anxiety, apprehension, etc. Better ability to handle problems, more efficiency in daily activities, more energy, more concentration. I feel like I can attest to all of these things because when you're chronically anxious or stressed, it's like you're clouded, And once you're breaking free of that, it's like, oh my gosh, there's this whole world out here of like not having to deal with all these ailments. And there are tons of different techniques for initiating the relaxation response. And obviously, like we just said, not every technique will be beneficial for everyone. We're all different. It's all good. Use your best judgment and don't do anything that you think would not be in your best interest physically, because some of these are like stretching or laying down in certain positions and stuff like that. So if you have anything going on that wouldn't be good for you to try it, just don't, Don't
over push when trying to relax.
Yeah, exactly. Because then it can be just even more stressful. So try to have an open mind when practicing the relaxation techniques. Don't discredit things before you try them. I don't know, people want to be like judgy about things like, oh, that's not going to work for me, or like, that's so silly, like, how could that actually work? But obviously, if you go into it with that mindset, it's not going to work. So just try to stay open. These techniques are about 10 to 20 minutes. And, if you do it every day, you can get better at practicing it. So if it doesn't really work for you the first time, maybe try it a couple more times and try to see it through. When you're going into it too, try to minimize background noise. I think this is a really important tip, because if you have a bunch of stuff going on, how can you truly relax if you're like, oh, I can hear my partner in the other room, or I can hear whatever might be going on around you, and you just won't get the full benefit of it. So I'd also say don't be in a rush to do the activity just because you think you have to get it done. Like, really try to not rush, because then, it's kind of like the same thing of like discrediting it before you even start it. You're already in the mindset of like, oh shit, I need to get this done right away. Like, or you're going through it and it's 20 minutes and you're like, shit, how far into this 20 minutes am I? Because I need to go back to work, or I need to go do this, that, and the other thing. Like, you're not going to get the actual benefit because your mind is too busy thinking about all the other things instead of focusing on the activity, which is like the whole purpose is to kind of like detach from everything that's going on, like being present, be in the moment, instead of, oh, I have to do this assignment. Oh, I have this, like, if you have that, it's just not going to help. And I think I said too, to go into it without expectations. It's great when one of these techniques is successful, but like I said earlier, not every technique will be successful for you. So minimize your expectations. If it works, cool. If it doesn't, whatever, like, then yep, that one's not for me. Don't judge based on what happens during the activity. Try to think of the activity as objectively as possible. And I think this goes along with the open mind, just taking it for what it is. Try to take the activity seriously, as in taking the steps to ensure the best outcome. Like I said, the minimizing background noise, trying to seclude yourself if you have that option. Maybe there is a space, or even like telling, if you have roommates, like, hey, I'm doing this thing, like, please don't bug me for 20 minutes. Maybe there's a time of day that's the quietest in your home, and that could be a good time for you to do it. I know when I've done it before, I'll like hear Winnie. Anytime I'm on my yoga mat, she just wants to be on me. So
very chill.
You can try to minimize things, but obviously some things will still happen, and it's whatever. But just try your best, whatever. Yeah, so now that you kind of like have the mindset of how you should be going into it, try to remember these tips. We'll be posting a separate episode guiding you through these relaxation techniques, which, it's not a cure-all for stress, but it's definitely worth giving a try. And a lot of people find success in this. And like I said earlier, it's something that's incorporated in like a lot of stress relief, is bringing that breath into it. So I think it'll just be better being on its own episode, so you don't have to be like going through this episode to try to find exactly where it starts. So yeah, we'll upload that and you can get to it whenever you think you'll like get the most benefit from it. Like whenever you're in the right headspace, best part of your day, whatever that means to you, we'll have it up there. And then I think we'll have a separate episode too, saying how Laura felt going through it. So you can keep an eye out for that as well. We'll be posting those relaxation response guided episodes, but we'll also be continuing next week with more techniques for dealing with stress. Product of the week.
Pow!
This might sound basic as fuck, but my leggings with pockets, that's the POW. These like Instagram accounts keep messaging me being like, we want you to be an ambassador. There's actually a couple that are like, these are actually free, but you just have to pay for shipping and you can promote it. And then I went on the website. None of these have pockets, so I'm not interested. I have leggings in my drawers that are so old and don't have pockets. And anytime I unroll them and see that they're the kind without pockets, I'm like, nope. I just can't do it anymore because I'm so used to having the pockets. It just makes a difference.
It really does.
To put anything. If I'm going on a walk with Winnie, I want my phone in the one pocket, maybe my keys in the other pocket. I still want the comfort of leggings, but I want the convenience of pants with pockets too. So
I'm unsubscribing from leggings without pockets.
Yeah, I'm done with it. If it doesn't have a pocket, I am not interested. Last year for Christmas even, Josh's mom, she always asks what I want. Leggings with pockets, like specify with the pockets. Yeah. And she showed up. She got me ones with pockets too. And I found a bunch on Amazon. So I'll just link a couple. It might be basic, but they really make my life easier. And then too, I started tracking all my steps again. So I'm like, I need the leggings with the pockets so it can track my steps.
True.
Need it. Basic, but it is what it is. And
link all of them.
That's all I'll say about it. Yeah, I'll link all the best ones that I know and love. That also are squat proof, because if it isn't squat proof, I'm also not interested. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you are ready to hear more about how to cope with stress. I hope that some of these techniques that we'll be posting in other videos will help you. And yeah, we're moving right along with December's theme of stress. Please call or text our business line 971-292-5565 or email us at wellnessbudspodcast@gmail.com. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, questions, if you want to share anything about your personal journey with food, maintaining healthier habits, how you deal with stress, or even if you just want to say hi, just text us, bitches. Like, we're here for it. We look forward to hearing from you. And I'm so thankful for everyone who is listening. We appreciate your support. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a review, donate, subscribe, share with a friend or family member that you think might enjoy this content. Follow us on socials or join our fan club over at Patreon. Thank you again, and we will catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.